This is what I'm facing for my talk. And basically what I'm going to review is that probably MS natural history is changing nowadays. And we have now a disease that is probably more benign than what we were used to see 25 years ago. If we look at the more classical natural history studies, what they said is that half of our patients will need a cane after 20 to 25 years. And in more recent studies, this is not the case anymore. The percentages are probably around 10%. And this is probably mainly due to two facts: the fact that we are able to diagnose earlier our patients, and also to the fact that we are treating them earlier. So these two things, early diagnosis and early treatment, we know now that they have been key for changing MS prognosis. And there are a bunch of other things that also are contributing. Probably now we are more aware of the importance of having a healthy lifestyle, or the importance of vitamin D levels, the importance of other comorbidities, etc., etc. So all this is contributing, but the natural history is changing, and this is one of the important points. Another important point is that even though this is the case, we don't have to forget that this is still a very dramatic disease for our patients. And there are a number of patients that are clearly at risk of becoming very disabled. And we need to identify those patients. And we need to identify them quickly, not when they have already developed such disabilities, but beforehand. No? And there are a number of tools that we can use to identify those patients that are more at risk of developing a bad disease, let's say. One of the first points is to see that the age is important. For example, when we see this disease starting in children or in adolescents, we know now that the disease is going to be more active, and that we need to also act very soon, because MS is then impacting in a brain that is not even fully developed. And we know now that it's going to have a major impact, for example, in cognition, when this disease acts in children. So age is something to consider very much. And also the clinical picture is telling us something. For example, if we see a patient that during the first year of the disease is already having several attacks, this is a clear indicator that this is a bad disease and we need to take actions immediately. And also when we see, for example, clinically patients that do recover not very well after their first attack, this is indicating that the brain reserve is failing. And therefore, this is also an indicator of a very bad response. And we need to act quickly. And another fantastic tool is MRI. MRI is like having a window to your brain and to your spinal cord. And we know that the clinical picture is only a small, tiny part of what is happening, but the majority is happening in the brain and is only visible with other tools such as brain and spinal cord MRI. And we know now that, for example, very simple indicators such as the number of lesions is important. For example, we had presented recently a study in which patients that have more than 20 lesions at baseline or more than 2 enhancing lesions, they have 5 times more risk of developing an aggressive MS. And we have also learned that not only the number of lesions, but also the topography of these lesions is very important. And we need to focus on the brainstem. We need to see how many spinal cord lesions there are, all this is indicating us that this is a more active and aggressive disease, and we need to pay attention to this. And of course, other more difficult data to monitor, such as atrophy, are also important, but more difficult to utilize at the individual basis. And more, we have biomarkers that also are helping us. For example, you know that serum neurofilaments are now an important biomarker. Serum neurofilaments are clearly related to the grade of activity that we have now. And they are also related to the degree of axonal damage that will develop in the future. So it can also probably also help to identify those patients that are being more active. So we have all these tools that can help us to really stratify our patients. There are other things that come more from the patient and that also need to be considered. We have, for example, patients that are very risk avoiding. They are very much concerned about risks. Okay, this is something to take into consideration in our treatment decision tree. No? Other patients that want to really prioritize efficacy. So these are also messages that we need to hear. We have learned the importance of early treatment in the past. Now I think it's the time to also learn and accept that we need to go more to an early high efficacy treatment. You know, we've been for many years doing a very stepwise approach. We were using certain treatments, then moving to others and others and others. But this stepwise approach, while it's still valid for some of our patients that have a more quiet disease, this is not probably acceptable for patients who are more active. Because here also, time is brain, or I like to say time is brain and spinal cord. So we have to really take attention. And more, we are using early, high efficacy treatment for all these patients that have these variables that indicate that they can have a more aggressive disease. Okay, so for all these patients, we need to probably understand that early treatment is important, but especially early high efficacy treatment. So this is also a very, very important message. And finally, we need to also understand the moment of our patient. It's not the same, as we mentioned, to have a child with MS or an adolescent with MS or a woman with a pregnancy desire, which is also very common in this disease, which happens in young women that are, many of them, willing to have children. And this is also very important to take into consideration. If we have a young woman with a, let's say, pretty quiet disease, pregnancy is not going to be a problem. And probably we have already platform treatments that are completely approved to be used until pregnancy is confirmed. And pregnancy is usually a quiet period. On the other side, we have young women with a high disease activity who are also willing to undertake pregnancy, but safely. That means that you cannot stop the disease, the drug, and see what happens, because we know that this is too many times related to a rebound of the disease and with dramatic outputs for the mother. So we need to balance the mother safety and the child safety. And there are ways now to balance this, even for women with high disease activity. But therefore, it is important for us neurologists to speak with our women, especially female patients, about how to undertake maternity in a safe and responsible environment. And this is achievable. And we have drugs that can be used in this way. So this is an important also part. And also, finally, aging is something to consider. It's not the same to start one of these high efficacy treatment in a patient who is 35 years or in a 65 years old patient, in which we have immunosenescence to consider, in which probably they have been receiving different treatments before, and in which, for example, infectious disease, they are more vulnerable to infectious disease and less responsible to vaccination. So all this also, this is important to consider when we are trying to do this more individualized treatment, which I'm sure can be achieved. And the one size fits all is not anymore acceptable. And I think we have in front of us a number of tools. And we are also working now in trying to have like risk calculators, in which you can put all these different items that I told you, and you could have for your individual patients your exact risk stratified. And we are currently working in this approach, which we feel can be very helpful for this more individualized approach.